Baltimore City as Mayor Brandon Scott starts his second term in office.
I want to be remembered as the foundational block for a better city.
And a new city council is sworn in.
Together, as one body, we are going to write the greatest American comeback story in history.
I'm going in depth on their promises to Baltimore, their track records, and some of the biggest issues they'll have to tackle in the next 4 years. Thank you for joining us for this week's edition of Fox 45 News In Depth. I'm Mikenzie Frost. A new era is beginning in Baltimore City. Mayor Brandon Scott has been inaugurated for his second term, and a new term of the city council is sworn in. The city council has 4 new faces among the ranks, along with 11 returning members. That includes Zeke Cohen, who voters promoted from member at large to city council president. We'll take a closer look at the council and what city residents want to see from them coming up in just a few minutes. But first, we begin with a closer look at the mayor's first term. The first city mayor to be elected to a second term in 20 years, but the first 4 years in City Hall were not without controversy. 4 years ago,
I, Brandon M. Scott,
I, Brandon M. Scott,
do affirm.
Brandon Scott took the oath of office for the first time as mayor of Baltimore City.
Please, Your Honor, to sign the oath book.
Kicking off a challenging first few years. Marred by the COVID-19 pandemic, restaurants and businesses closed.
I will not waver or hesitate to make decisions that save lives and protect our economy.
Crime soared, despite making a campaign promise of reducing the bloodshed in his first year.
I will aim to reduce homicides by 15% each year in my term, getting us below 300 homicides in my first year.
Community members frustrated with what they saw as a lack of action from the people they elected to serve.
Do something else, because everything they say they're going to do, it don't seem like nothing's going on, or it doesn't happen.
Later that same year, in 2021,
can I ask you a quick question?
We pressed Mayor Scott on the climbing crime numbers, statistics he did not want to talk about.
Say that violent crime is down, but that's only true when you exclude the common assaults. Why exclude those numbers?
It's not. We're not. Total violent crime is down because total violent crime is down. What you're doing is playing with the numbers. We're looking at violent crime as how it's considered by the federal government and those in the FBI. That's how we consider the numbers.
But that's only true when you exclude assaults.
The mayor walked away from the questions. But crime isn't the only crisis Mayor Scott has had to deal with in his first term. A revolving door of staffers through City Hall, plus major problems within the Department of Public Works. E. coli detected in the water over Labor Day weekend in 2022. Our investigations uncovered internal emails showing DPW knew about the contamination and did not immediately alert the public. Despite backing the city's response,
communication seemed to be bungled. How do you plan to make sure that the community sees that someone is held accountable for this?
So again, Mikenzie, there was no misbundling of communication.
Do you still stand by that statement?
I think, Mikenzie, you may think it's not the case, but the overall, what matters is what the Department of MDE has said, and they said that we followed their protocols to a T.
MDE did not say that you guys followed it by a T. They told DPW multiple times on Sunday to issue the BWA, and it didn't happen.
Mayor Brandon Scott not directly answering the questions, and later, the Maryland Department of Environment sent a letter alerting the city that it had violated federal and state public notice rules.
Hey, God bless. Have a nice day.
Split it with your friends, please.
2022 also bringing the summer of squeegee kids. We spoke to several of them about why they dodge traffic to make some cash.
It's not all squeegee kids that do bad things, you feel me?
But squeegeeing itself is illegal.
Yeah, it is. But like the police told us, they're not going to stop it because all of us not out here doing bad things.
Mayor Scott did not take action until Timothy Reynolds died after being shot by a squeegee kid at an Inner Harbor intersection.
That's why you heard us all talking about a working, movable plan.
Then, Mayor Scott launched the Squeegee Collaborative, an effort to get squeegee kids off the corners and into jobs.
To the historic inauguration ceremony of Baltimore's 52nd Mayor, Brandon M. Scott.
During his second inauguration,
congratulations, Mayor Brandon Scott.
The mayor touted his Squeegee Collaborative effort.
Through the Squeegee Collaborative, we were able to get him connected to employment opportunities open a savings account, acquire a state ID, and get connected to the Young Fatherhood Program at the Center for Urban Families.
Homicides and non-fatal shootings fell below 300 for the first time in nearly a decade in 2023. And 2024 is on pace to see even fewer people impacted by gun violence. But the surge in other crimes like auto thefts and carjackings remain a major concern.
It seems like people that want to commit a violent crime, they're going to do it. It's a crime of opportunity.
Mayor Scott did not mention these issues during his second address. However, he did tout his creation of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, which houses both GVRS and Safe Streets. The quick growth of the agency in the last 4 years raising questions about future funding, especially since the mayor used part of the one-time federal COVID-era money to pay for staff and programs. But Mayor Scott did not give specifics about that either in his address. While Baltimore City is in the midst of a renaissance, according to the mayor,
I want to be remembered as the foundational block for a better city.
How the next 4 years will unfold will determine if his goals will ultimately become reality.
Now, in his inaugural address, Mayor Scott doubled down on his support of the Group Violence Reduction Strategy, or GVRS. It started in the Western Police District, which is the most violent district in the city this year. Violent crime is up more than 140% there compared to this time last year. Homicides up 130%. Non-fatal shootings up 76%. That's despite 2 Safe Streets locations in the area. Earlier this year, the mayor blamed the rise in crime on redistricting, which expanded the population of the Western Police District. But residents have told Fox 45 News the problems go deeper than that.
We have led in homicides for 9 years. 9 years.
There's been no development. There's been no investment.
We have 8 years not having a food market in this neighborhood. No food market. But we got liquor stores in every corner.
I did reach out to the mayor's office to invite Brandon Scott to be a part of our newscast today. They ignored our request. Joining us now to weigh in on the mayor's past and future in Baltimore is the Dean of the College of Public Affairs at the University of Baltimore, Dr. Roger Hartley. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Listening to his address and reading the remarks, what was your biggest takeaway from his vision for a second term in office?
It was a really good speech. I mean, he was trumpeting, first of all, the importance of having stability in the mayor's office for the first time in several terms, which is a really big deal. Then he went back to his 5-point agenda, first and foremost, public safety, and noted and took credit for this really important reduction in homicides that we've had citywide, one of which, of course, is a 40% reduction since 2022. We may, Mikenzie, come in this year below 200, not below 300 homicides for the first time in anyone's recent memory. That, of course, leads to perception of our city and hopefully seen as safer and more people to come in and do business in the city than they had in the past.
Dr. Hartley, I apologize for the technical difficulties there. People at home can still hear you, so I want to continue the conversation. Looking at how the mayor plans to govern moving forward in the next 4 years, do you anticipate a change in his conversation styles or relationships now that he has won this second term? Do you think that he will have more confidence moving forward?
Yeah, I think absolutely. Being able to build off the successes of his agenda from the previous administration, being able to kind of cash in those successes for political power and legitimacy are going to be something that's important in any executive. If he had come out with not these successes in reducing the homicide rate, it would have been much, much harder. But he's going to be able to trumpet achievements and then move in. Of course, there are budget issues that are going to affect the state, the nation, and changes in administration. There are going to be new challenges for the mayor's office and also our city.
When it comes to the budget, we know that not only is the city facing some budget questions, but also the state with the budget deficits, and obviously lawmakers in Annapolis are talking about that significantly moving forward as we get closer to the next General Assembly. But looking at working with the new federal administration, the Trump team, we've heard from the mayor talk about his concerns, and he's had some criticisms of the incoming President-elect Donald Trump. How do you envision that friction potentially causing problems for the way that Baltimore City gets federal funding?
Well, you know, it's a big deal, and it's going to be on the shoulders of our state senators and our federal senators and our federal representatives to do a lot of this work with the city. But he mentioned in his speech the red line, of course. Well, the red line is going to take some federal funding to be able to get done. The Key Bridge, of course, mix of huge federal funding and other projects. That, you know, a lot of funding that comes to cities and counties, of course, comes from the feds to the states or from the states to the localities. So that has to be minded. There's going to have to be a real heavy focus on intergovernmental relations work between our city, the state, and then from our state to the federal government with this new administration. They don't necessarily, as you mentioned, see eye to eye.
Right. Working with the incoming city council members, too, how do you envision that working relationship or those partnerships? Do you foresee any problems, bumps in the road? We had some, you know, tense relationships with some previous members who are no longer there. Do you see any challenges there?
Well, I think there's always an interest because you have new council members that come in and they have an agenda and they want to serve their districts, and they should. That's their main goal. But you know, they're working with what's one of the strongest mayor systems in the United States. So council members have limited power, and it's going to be them working through Zeke Cohen, our new council president, to be able to have that kind of an influence with the mayor. And so it's going to be that relationship between our mayor, Brandon Scott, and council president Zeke Cohen that's going to have a big influence on these new council members coming in and being able to get some of the things that they need done for their parts of the city. But I think there's going to be a strong working relationship. It's not a partisan one in this case. It's mainly Democrats working with Democrats, of course. So I think they're going to be able to work things out.
One big thing we're definitely going to want to keep an eye on is the federal ARPA dollars and what the city council and how the mayor wants to move forward with that. We're going to talk a little bit about the ARPA dollars later in the show, and we'll have to bring you back so we can talk about that in the weeks and months to come. Dr. Harley, thank you so much for joining us this evening. I appreciate your insight.
Mikenzie, thank you so much. I enjoy being on the program.
The 74th Baltimore City Council is sworn in. We hear from residents about what they want to see from the council in the next 4 years. And as we head to break, let's take a look at some of today's other top headlines.
We're going county by county, digging into the data given to us by police departments, showing the number of juvenile arrests in November. In Baltimore County, there were 232 juveniles arrested or charged. That comes out to about 7 juveniles a day. In Baltimore City, 70 juvenile cases were brought to juvenile booking for review of detention. In Howard County, there were 46 total juvenile arrests, 9 more than in October. In Harford County, the sheriff's office says 27 juveniles were charged but not arrested. In Carroll County, the sheriff's office says 11 juvenile cases were referred to DJS.
This week, criticism and concern intensifying around a proposal from Frederick Mayor Michael O'Connor meant to offset Trump's incoming immigration policies. O'Connor pledging to carve out room in the city's budget for a legal advocacy fund, which would use taxpayer dollars to pay non-citizens attorney fees as they fight deportation. Frederick's 5 city council members will ultimately vote on the fund as a part of the city's budget. Last Monday and again today, Fox 45 sending them questions asking, would you approve or deny the fund, and to explain why. So far, no response.
Each one of these council members is great, but together, as one body, we are going to write the greatest American comeback story in history.
A new term of the Baltimore City Council is underway. 4 new council members were sworn in Thursday. Fox 45 News caught up with some of them ahead of the inauguration, asking what their priorities will be in City Hall.
Jobs. It's always been, I've watched what a job does for someone. When young people prevent these crimes, it's because they don't have a North Star. They don't have that direction. They don't have something that they're risking. If someone knew, like, look, I'm about to get into this apprenticeship program and I know, you know, I can't afford to be locked up because it starts next month. You're going to be a little more, you know, conscious of the decisions you're making.
I'm a big proponent of narrowing Key Highway and Light Street, you know, to discourage dirt biking, looking at things like potentially speed bumps, all that type of stuff. We have to get serious about it, whatever your age. making sure that we're holding those people accountable and providing the services to make sure that that doesn't happen again.
The 4 new members are joining 11 returning members. That includes Zeke Cohen, who is starting his new role as City Council President. We caught up with some of the returning members as well. While they all agree public safety is a top priority, some think other issues need to be addressed first.
If we are eliminating vacant and abandoned properties, we're actually reducing crime. That's just a fact.
Crime still is a byproduct of a bigger symptom, and that's education and economics.
This is your 74th term of the Baltimore City Council. Last week, we asked you what you think they should prioritize. 94% of respondents said public safety, 5% pointed to education. Now, Fox 45's Jeff Abel is taking to the streets, hearing what residents want to see change in the next term.
On this inaugural day, as city leaders welcomed a new president and 4 new council members, city residents were demanding to be heard.
Step up on the box.
1, 2, 3. Mic check. We set up our soapbox in the heart of downtown.
Give me my cue, cameraman.
Where there was no shortage of talk about problems and priorities.
You got people that's more homeless, hungry, starving.
Outside of the murder rate, the drug use.
Right now, I'm trying to find housing right now, and it's so hard, man. It's so hard.
Even though BGE cut our lights off, like we're trying to do something about it, and it's pretty hard.
Many of those here seem little affected by the changes at City Hall. Government, they insist, has let them down before.
Does City Hall care?
I think the city has a heart, but I don't think it's beating.
I feel like they just for themselves and what they can make out when they're in office. They don't care about people like me.
Excuse me, is this thing on? It doesn't matter who we put up in office at this point. At this point, the people want results. We're tired.
Well, let's just hope that the new leadership isn't coerced or impacted by the corrupt officials that's already in office.
You need to have a strong team for Baltimore. There isn't a strong team. If one link is weak, everything goes wrong.
Can you trust City Hall?
Absolutely not. No.
At this point, they don't know criminal from citizen.
Baltimore's leaders may be changing, but its problems are still here.
Is there reason for hope?
Yes. Yes.
There's always hope. Never lose hope. I don't care where you at in life, never lose hope. I'm trusting they'll make a difference. I really am trusting they'll make a difference.
With the soapbox.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. You have a good day.
Y'all thank y'all, Baltimore.
Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
This week, we asked what you think the new Baltimore City Council should focus on. Let's take a look at some of your responses. Overwhelmingly, people said crime. We have crime, and then also another one is an independent forensic auditor to come in and see exactly where all of the money goes. Talking about the oversight as well as fixing the streets. People are complaining about the potholes. One of the biggest issues facing the city council and the mayor is what to do when Baltimore's ARPA dollars run out. The concerns for the future funding for several programs, and an expert weighs in on the steps city leaders should take to protect taxpayers.
Here's tonight's primetime lineup on Fox 45. Brought to you locally by your McDonald's owner-operators.
A big issue the new city council will have to tackle is what will happen when the city's ARPA funding runs out. Remember, the city got $641 million from the federal government following the COVID pandemic. That funding has been used to expand city government and provide support for various nonprofits. That includes the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Safety and Engagement, or MONSE, the Safe Streets program, and others. This week, Councilman Mikenzie Schleifer told Fox 45 News one of his priorities is shifting how the city funds those programs.
We know that the ARPA dollars are running out, and so obviously there's going to have to be some type of shift because the money is not going to continue to flow in the way that it has in the past. So certainly some of that strategy is going to change.
Now, this is not a new conversation. It was a big topic of discussion during the City Council President debate Fox 45 News hosted back in April. At the time, then Council President Nick Mosby and current Council President Zeke Cohen had a heated back and forth over the future of the funding.
We're going to have to come to a real reality where some of this do-good, some of this feel-good type of social programming will have to be cut out. And, you know, the council's going to have to stand in the limelight to try to figure out where do we cut from and where do we redirect. That is the role of the council. That's the role that the citizens gave us. As council president, I've built an organization where we have subject matter experts to look at the budget and work through the budget with the administration, and that's exactly what we plan to do. But this is my issue from the beginning of ARPA spending.
Unfortunately, distributing it around to programs like Clean Core and nonprofits, love our nonprofits, but it does not accomplish what we need to accomplish as a city, which is to deliver great city services.
Now, joining us now to talk about the future for funding in Baltimore City is the president of the Taxpayers Protection Alliance, David Williams. David, thank you for joining us again. We've talked a lot about these ARPA dollars over the past couple of years. We know the money must be committed by the end of the year. I've asked Mayor Scott specifically about what the city is going to do about ARPA money used for Mikenzie and Safe Streets. And he says the city is going to work to institutionalize the work. What do you think that means?
Good evening. And to hear those words from the mayor is really disappointing because this money was a gift to the city, a gift from the federal government. And what this means is when he talks about that is that these programs are going to grow and grow and grow long after the money is gone. And therein lies the problem. This is going to be a fiscal liability for the city for many years. And let's remember that this money was supposed to be for COVID relief. It was supposed to bolster health in the city. Is supposed to bolster a lot of things, but it's gone towards some parks, nonprofits, and Mikenzie and Safe Streets, and they are building their staff. And like I said, it's going to be a fiscal liability for many years, and that's problematic.
Now, what do you think? Should other programs or staff that were hired and created using this money, should they be concerned about what their future looks like inside City Hall when this money runs out?
Well, I would hope that they would be concerned, but they probably aren't because the city never fires people. I mean, city bureaucracies and all bureaucracies grow. They don't contract. So I think that what the city's going to do is going to have this massive bill that they're going to keep on paying for. And therein lies the problem, is that you hire 10 people, you're not going to get rid of them. They are going to stay inside of city government. And another concern is you mentioned nonprofits. The city is giving and abdicating a lot of its responsibility to nonprofits that are at times not as accountable as a city agency. City agencies should be cleaning the streets. City agencies should be dealing with public safety and education, and abdicating these responsibilities to nonprofits is problematic when it comes to oversight.
We often hear, the city has high property taxes. People complain about the tax rate in the city all the time. When we hear words from the mayor like institutionalizing it, people would assume that means that these programs are here to stay. Ultimately, who's going to pay for the longevity of these efforts?
Well, I think you hit the nail right on the head, is that it's going to be really difficult to reduce property tax rates if the city has a bigger budget. There's going to be a lot more pressure to raise taxes, to ask more from people rather than less. Now, listen, I think reducing the property tax rate will bring more business in, will bring more people in. A lot of city leaders don't believe that, but it's what's happened across the country. But I think there's going to be more pressure to raise taxes as the budget grows over the next 5 to 10 years.
Looking back, do you believe that there was a better use of this money, that City Hall could have used perhaps other investments instead of the way that the mayor and the city council decided to distribute the funds?
Yeah, absolutely. And they should have been just one-time investments, one-time expenditures, and not expanding these agencies. Health. We saw Department of Public Works. I mean, this has been happening for a number of years. I mean, what happened last summer just didn't pop up and happen all of a sudden. This has been brewing for a number of years. They should have addressed that. They should have bought better equipment, air conditioning. I think that's what the money should have gone towards, because that would have improved really the quality of life for these employees, but also the city, to have city workers that, aren't at danger when they go to work. So, but also healthcare. Listen, this was about COVID. This was about addressing COVID. the bolstering healthcare inside of Baltimore City, I think would have gone a lot better than Mikenzie or Safe Streets. That it seems like, every week, every month, there's more questions about the expenditures.
Yeah, David Williams, thank you for your time. We'll have to keep a close eye on this, and I'm sure we'll keep talking to you as this plays out.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for this week's edition of Fox 45 News In Depth. I'm Mikenzie Frost.